Hello, this poem is called Things That Can Kill You in Australia, Part 1. Fresh from avoiding a Balinese honeypot, I flew at last for Darwin, Australia's tropical top. Long after midnight by the floodlit airfield, the night full of insects, the air was still hot. Our place for repose was some beachside bushes, lanterns made from cut beer cans. Flightless birds with puzzled faces and scuttling sea crabs invaded our sleeping lot, and something trod across my feet as I lay there. One of the marsupial also rans. The police shone torches in the early hours, but then let us stay for more sleep. In the early morning, past sand tracks of hermit crabs, we waded in the sea with faces turned up, blinking in the rays of the sun's first peep. Returning, a notice said, October, box jellyfish. We got away unstung, this time, from the deep. Those first days down under were disorientating, and I didn't feel so good. Uncertainty and homesickness hit me hard, and the culture shock of sleeping in a seaside wood. Alice had been through it some months before, and she, of course, fully understood. I had to wait for my body and soul to catch up, trusting and hoping they would. Across the territory to Kakadu National Park, mango pickers in Humpty Doo, pitched tent in a field full of termite mounds and wallabies nosing around in the gloom. Plenty of black fellas in the pub in this uranium mining town, talkative and mostly drunk, as the benefit payment beer went down. Ang Bang Bang Billabong shrunk to a mud pool. It was the annual dry season now. Waterfowl crowded ridiculously. A compressed Ziegfeld Follies show, egrets and others, preening on branches, shouldering and jostling, toe to toe. I wandered around in the toffee-smelling woods. After a sudden and venomous row, found each other later by distant cries, just as the dusk was coming down. The last car leaving said they'd seen her calling, then waving. They drove off, back to the town. Walking kilometres and finally sleeping on a big flat roadside boulder. No vehicle passed as the southern stars wheeled slowly around as the night got colder. The Magellanic clouds, a never-seen wonder, galaxies outside of our own. In the early dawn, something awoke me, scrunching across ground as dry as a bone. I craned my neck and saw a pale grey spider, the size and weight of a crab. Turned over and went back to sleep with a stoicism I didn't know I had. Noorlangi rocks, where we ate lemon ants, and the Dreamtime paintings that we saw. Lightning Ridge and Lightning Dreaming, and other sacred places. An indigenous guide asked us not to look too long, but to turn away our faces. Arnhem Land to the east and Cape Country, closed to us whitefellas by law. I will never forget Big Bill Naiji, the poet, last leader of the Gagaju tribe. We sat in the dust behind the Jabiru supermarket, the place where we finally met. I gave him some peeled orange as we talked, and he gave me a cigarette. A hard, dry country, and I felt soft, rationing precious water all day. The thorny plants and rocks, hard as diamond, but ochre and dark red and grey. Waterfall Creek and the East Alligator River, opaque and thick with clay, and later I'd stand not too close to the water and cast a lure at the close of one day. I caught a barramundi fighting fish from the mudflat. Delighted, I quickly backed away. More than one tourist has been taken here by a hungry saltwater croc, they say, erupting from the water, accelerating like a scaly reptilian tank. And the eyes of those beasts in the late torchlight, golden orange, unblinking as we looked. Alice ran like a scalded cat, kicking up bull dust. First time I ever saw her spooked. Sunrise from the rocks of Ubir Lookout, high above the Spinifex plain. We rode there on footplates of a heavy loaded ute. The driver said, as we clung on for life, the world belongs to the brave. They told us the crew for Paul Hogan's films had used this beer banned place. A scally with a cockatoo at Backpackers sang his ranty songs. I didn't like his face. Sat at a picnic table, we saw a bowerbird fussing about in his nest, just 3 meters away, unembarrassed, obviously doing his best. Then a goanna, giant lizard the size of a dog, casually walked up, gave us a sideways look, flicked its tongue, then moved away at a trot. I thought these small dragons were harmless, so felt no fear. It turns out they are not. Victoria Gorge and a plunging salty heard in the middle of the night. Heavy tail concussions echoed from the cliffs, woke me up in frozen fright. By then we had seen the footage of just what a salty can do. Head and jaws 1/2 meter wide, big enough to bite you in two. It came from around a bend in the gorge, waterbirds silent and terrified. A foolhardy thing, but we thought we were brave. The ranger's injunctions defied. Make sure you get off the water by dusk and leave the reserve before dark. That night, sleeping under a tent, a net on a sandbank, at the foot of the cliffs we never could have climbed. Instead of leaving, we would either become prey or we wouldn't. Would it smell us or hear us breathing? And would it weep with regret, as Purcell once said? Thus on the fatal banks of the Nile weeps the deceitful crocodile. The Leviathan passed and sounds faded away. The fear became old news. We slept pretty well until day, then wobbled away with the lark in our borrowed fiberglass canoes.